Hi.
Hi, I'm so excited to be here.
All right, so we're doing it, people. We are at the Workhuman conference. Jackie and I are here for the Inclusive AF podcast, and we have an awesome guest, Jackie. Jackie's not the awesome
I
guest.
was about to say, I'm actually
It's an
not
awesome guest.
the guest.
Yes.
But we do have an awesome guest with us.
Thank you.
It's Meisha-ann's shoes.
Oh.
That's
Oh, we
The
really
shoes
are gonna
are
talk
the guest
about
star.
that. Okay.
the shoes
okay.
are the guests. All right, this is the Inclusive AF podcast. I'm Katie Van Horn.
And I'm Jackie Clayton.
Yeah, you are.
Whoop.
And we are in beautiful, overcast San Diego, California. No one can convince me it's sunny here ever because I've never seen it sunny here. And
It's okay. See that.
And we have a guest. Meisha-ann Martin is here with us. And Meisha-ann is, I don't even know where to start, honestly. So I would love for you to introduce yourself, share a little bit about yourself, and then we will get after it.
Absolutely. Okay, so I am an industrial organizational psychologist with a focus on people analytics and a passion for diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Damn.
Yeah. So I like to say I am fanatically passionate about how people experience work. You change people's work lives, you change their lives. And I am passionate about using data to create awareness of how different people are experiencing work, implement evidence-based solutions to make work better, and to hold ourselves really accountable for inclusive work if we say, and we do say, that that's what we want. So that's who I am professionally. Personally, the most important thing to know about me is I'm an immigrant. I was born and raised in Jamaica, and yeah, Jamaica is home for me.
Okay, we have to come back to that piece because I want to know, I just read a book called Black Cake.
Yes, I read it. It's amazing.
Have you made a black cake before? Or do
I-
you know anyone who knows how to make them that can make one for me?
My mommy makes a black cake. If I bake for you, you should never eat it.
Okay,
I am a cook, not a baker.
got it.
You should eat my oxtail. You should not eat my black cake.
Okay, well, we're going to your mom's house right after this to
And
get a
then
black cake.
we'll be at your house for
Yeah,
the
and then we'll
oxtail.
come to your house for the oxtail. And maybe we should do the oxtail first because that's like the dinner and
That's
then
right.
the dessert.
Progressive.
But,
It's
yeah.
a progressive dinner.
Nobody's
Progressive.
oxtail is better than mine. Just
Hey now. Okay, all right. We got big claims happening here.
And you're only an hour and a half away.
I'm not ashamed of it either.
Yeah,
Ooh.
when Jackie shows up on your doorstep, don't be surprised.
I said it with my chest. I meant it.
Well, you know what? I get really excited. I know in doing this work, it really is. I always say it's change management. Like it's
Yes.
organizational design.
Yes.
There's all these different pieces.
Yes.
And one thing that I've been like really passionate about lately, I'm always like the future of diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging is not Googleable, right?
Okay.
And I'd love to hear more about what you're seeing because I love you picking up on the data, but a lot of times people don't know what data to look at.
And what it means.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
And where to get it. I literally spoke last week and I said, show them the diversity report. And I was like, and she goes, what's a diversity report? I was like, ooh, baby.
Oh, Nelly.
Okay. Yep. We'll chat.
That's where we're starting from. Okay.
Oh boy. Okay, so I'm gonna give you a hot take, right?
Yep.
So here's what I think where diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging data is concerned. We've gotten real lazy. That's what I really think. I think we've gotten real lazy. So we've got all these people that have come out and say, oh, this is really important. And I feel like that the metrics that are typical are the easy things like representation. When really, if you really, really want to know what's happening in an organization where inclusion is concerned, you got to get curious and you got to get creative. So one of the things I'm most excited to see now, and Jackie, we talked about this, is research into the language that's being used to talk about different types of people in organizations. Like, are you describing my accomplishments differently? Are you using different language in my performance review that is resulting in differential outcomes for me in terms of my career potential in this company? We've got to get real curious and stop resorting to the data that we have that's easy. Start with the questions that we need to be asking, and then figure out a way to answer those questions, even if we have to create new data or we have to use data that's imperfect.
I love that you said that. And you know, kind of along that lines, you know what's never on those reports? Did you do a review for this person? Right? Because how many times are people like, I didn't do one because I'm scared and I didn't want him to be mad and I only have one person from India on my team and he's not doing great, but I didn't want to hurt his feelings. Like, we don't even look at the data of the people that are doing those things. We can only do the work that our people are doing. We don't measure who's not doing the work before we get there, right?
Yep. Who's not in the meetings.
That's
who's
right.
not in the know. Like, all of these are inclusion things that we don't often look at. You know, we've got data from Outlook, right? Like, can we look at that from an inclusion lens? Like,
Slack.
who's talking the most in meetings? Who's getting interrupted? These are not easy things to answer, but they're important questions to ask.
It's Katie. Katie is talking the most and getting interrupted the most because she talks the most.
That's actually, that might not be inaccurate in any way, but I'm thinking about this tool that we just looked at. I'm trying to remember a couple weeks ago we had someone on, and that's exactly what they were talking about, is having a measurement of meetings, who's talking in the meetings, who is on the Outlook invites for different things. And I mean, and we know, even without data, we know some of the answers to these questions of, oh, well, they didn't bring in this group until later down the line of a project. And you're like, no, they need to be here at the beginning so they know what's going on.
Right.
And, you know, anecdotally, we can just say, who's sitting in this room?
Right.
And we just were in a session with Eric Bailey, and he was saying, you know, one of the comments he made was, you know why executives go to meetings? It's because they were invited. And I was thinking as he's saying that, and who wasn't invited?
That's right.
And that's also the piece that we just don't think about. And
Yeah.
why are we inviting the executive versus the doer that's
right.
doing that work, that we know is doing that work? So,
But I also want to talk about the phrase "we know," because we know, but we, the organization, sometimes doesn't know.
Amen.
And so it doesn't get addressed, it doesn't get fixed, and that's where quantifying things with data can make that we know the universal we know. And that's what's so important in terms of getting that reality changed.
yes. And it's reminding me of the conversation yesterday with Reshma, where it was, I was sitting there in this room of, 250 HR professionals thinking, God, I hope everyone in here is listening and is going to do something about it. And, and those are the things that I think that's why I love this conference so much, because it's folks talking about stuff that truly matters, not stuff that's fluffy or that's from 20 years ago that, no one cares about anymore.
Yeah.
Like, it's real information at Workhuman that you're hearing about and understanding and going, God, I just hope everyone's listening.
Yeah, she was absolutely fantastic. I was really fascinated with what she was saying about, women being conditioned for perfection and men being conditioned for innovation. Are we replicating those biases in our performance reviews, right? Are we challenging things like executive presence and confidence? Like, can we just, okay.
It made me think, though, too, just because of Workhuman, about recognition as well.
Yes.
Like, I might not, in other organizations, been seen as innovative. Like, I get praise for the work that I do, but not because I came up with a solution to a problem.
Yes. Right.
Which, you are what you recognize, right? So it's like, oh, you want me to work harder. And it's interesting when you're talking about, like, we know, but we don't all know. It was literally, I know we're talking about COVID. It was literally during that time when everything was going down, and I was like, you didn't know that? Like, there were so many things that I was like, you didn't know that?
How did you not know that?
Like, how did you not?
Right.
And I think there are a lot of things that people don't realize make some grand assumptions without explaining those. And I think that's another important part. When you're going into the data, these are the assumptions I'm making coming into this. Right? So before I even go in, let me say I'm assuming everybody's in. We all want to make change. We're all able to work together. Is there anything wrong? Should I change the assumptions before we get started?
Imagine how fast we could solve the world's biggest problems if more SaaS startups would gain traction sooner. Welcome to the Tech Entrepreneur on a Mission podcast. This podcast is dedicated to sharing experiences from B2B SaaS CEOs who are going above and beyond to deliver change that is noticed. You will hear their secrets and learn what is required to build a SaaS business that the world starts talking about and keeps talking about, and how to overcome the roadblocks to do so.
But let's also talk about we know, but we don't all know where it comes to talent management. Let's say I'm on a project team, right? And I did something super innovative, and those people see it, but my manager, the
That's
person who's
right.
determining who, if I'm a high potential, never knows about this. I think recognition has such an important place in terms of making the accomplishments of different people visible. That social feed where you can see so-and-so did so-and-so, it has such huge implications for how we think about talent in organizations.
Well, can I tell on myself?
Yeah.
So the other day, I got a alert reminder that I hadn't given recognition to a person in the last 2 months.
Ooh.
And I thought, well, they better see this because it's not me. It's like, well, then they're not doing a good job. Why you reminding me? Did you remind him? And I was like, oh,
Whoopsies.
it's me. I'm the problem. It's me. I was like, wow, But I feel like what you're saying is so true of doing that. And it's so important. Like, it doesn't take a lot. I mean, I remember I did a study a long time ago saying thank you. You could increase tenureship at this one organization for 3 months. 3 months is a long time just for saying thanks.
Well, and that's something that I have actually put into trainings when I'm training leaders on how to actually facilitate a performance or development discussion.
Yeah.
Say thank you.
Yes.
Even if you're going to then follow it up with, here are some things that aren't going well,
Yes.
they still put in work. And I think that's part of it too, is just the acknowledgement of the work, the acknowledgement of some of the things that, hey, maybe as a leader I'm not seeing. Hey, I talked to your team members and here's what I heard, whatever it might be. And I think there's just a miss there that people don't just say thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're talking a lot about invisibility right now. There are a lot of people giving their hearts and souls to organizations and feeling like, their efforts, not just their accomplishments, right, but their efforts are not acknowledged and invisible. And think about what that does to the soul of a person.
Yes.
Nobody sees this. I'm trying really hard. Nobody sees me. Yes, saying thank you is very important. And not just for going above and beyond, but I like to say, I'm a psychologist, right? Anytime you see a behavior that you want somebody to repeat, positively reinforce it by recognizing it.
Yes.
It's basic human behavior. So not only do you get at the acknowledgement, right, and avoid invisibility, but now you're coaching somebody to be a better performer through the power of positive reinforcement.
Absolutely. And I will call out that I think a lot of times when the folks that are working very hard and delivering on things, unfortunately a lot of times it's the folks that are underrepresented, that are historically marginalized, et cetera. And, there's a lot of folks that can fall into that demographic and they just get stuff done and no one even knows it's getting done. And it's, it's kind of like, we talked about housework in a couple of the sessions that, the caregiving and some of these things. When is the last time you went home to your partner and said thank you for whatever they have contributed to the household or whatever? And, I think it carries into all facets of your life, positive reinforcement. How are you thanking them and acknowledging that unseen work and that stuff that just magically gets done that somehow
Why is everybody calling me out at this conference? Listen to me.
Yeah, fairies coming
Why is
into
everybody
your
calling me
house.
out?
Yeah.
We're inviting you to be your best self.
Yeah. I'm going to call Todd right now and make sure that you have acknowledged his...
You know what? You have a roommate real quick. I don't know who. I don't know which one. But somebody will be moving
I was
in.
going to say, you could move in.
I was like, wait, that's not a bad idea.
You love coming to Arizona, so I think that would be perfect. So what are you working on now? What is, what's coming up for you? I know.
Oh my gosh.
I'm
okay.
excited.
So, speaking about making the invisible visible, the thing that I'm working on right now that I'm most excited about is the Black Men in Tech Partnership and Research. So we look at recognition data with an inclusion lens, and we started to realize that Black men and Black women were having very different experiences in organizations. And so we partnered with Black Men in Tech to laser focus on what it's like to be a Black man in organizations. And we found out some really important things in terms of, wow, organizations kind of need to know these things, need to know the things that are different in terms of priorities for us, how we think about our finances, the things that are happening to people, and then what are some of the things that you can do to make it better. So I'm really excited about the prospect of taking that persona and really shining a lens on it. We're doing a lot more of this of late. We just published our Evolution of Work report, where we're looking at other personas. So we're looking at, caregivers. We're looking at what do people want out of work based on their life stages, because I'm so tired of people talking about generations. I'm like, are we stereotyping though? Okay. So I had this hypothesis that, life stages may be related to what you want out of work.
Right.
And so, we started looking at that. So all of that I'm really excited about because, sometimes these individuals get lost in the sauce in organizations, and we're not spending the time to understand what they need and what their experiences are.
The first thing that you just said, I just want to go back to and have you repeat. The experiences of Black men in the workplace
Yes.
is not the same
That's right.
as everyone else.
That's right.
And I think that's something that so many people go, oh, well, this was my experience, so
Yeah.
that must be what everyone else's
Yeah.
experience is.
Yeah.
And to be able to look at that data with that, kind of laser point to say, what are we doing? How
Yeah.
is this working out for different groups? And I love the life stages as well, because I will tell you, I'm not the norm in a lot of ways. So, I don't have kids, I'm not married. And so
Same.
yeah, but if you think about, and we know this, or I'm gonna say I know this to be true, I have a different stage in my life that I'm at than siblings, than friends, than
Right.
some of these other folks. But I also know that I'm the favorite aunt, because when I die, my niece and nephews are gonna do very well in the whole
Same.
situation. So it works out. But I think the life stages piece is just so critical.
Yeah.
Versus, oh, they're over 40, so all they care about is their retirement, their
That's
401k,
right.
their pension, whatever it might be. No.
That's right. And do you think about money differently if you're an immigrant?
That's right.
Or if you're a member of a marginalized population and you have to reach back, right? There are all these things to consider as we're thinking about things like an inclusive wellness strategy, right? An inclusive experience strategy. So I'm really excited to be delving deeper into these personas that, again, sometimes get lost in the sauce.
Well, and also, I think what isn't talked about enough is there's trauma. There is work trauma from your first job moving forward that's going into all of these organizations and all these things. There is generational trauma. There's historic family trauma just from being there because of what's going on within your family. And then they teach us to hate us. And then you have to pull yourself out of that. And we don't talk about how I'm coming in.
Yes.
And so it is difficult, because that's why, we have this great inclusive workspace. And then everyone who comes, Black, brown, or other is like, is this real? And they're
Yeah,
like, you're treating
I know
me
that
like
feeling.
everybody else, and this feels weird.
Yep.
Like, do you have more questions? No. Is it because I'm getting fired? Wait, no, it's because I did a good job. I've never had that happen before. I don't have to justify this? Is it because I'm getting fired? I mean, and I don't think people realize, people are like, well, we want to be inclusive, bring yourself. And then it's like, okay, but I'm scared.
Yep.
Yeah, that is such a good point. So when I started at Workhuman, it was after the George Floyd murder. And I was, not okay. There's so many times as Black people in America where we're not okay.
Right.
Last Workhuman Live after Buffalo, I was not okay.
I was not okay.
I was not.
Workhuman saved my life that time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wasn't going to come.
She wasn't going to
Yeah.
come.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so I I don't know that I don't think I've said this in a forum like this before, but I'm going to say it now. I was supposed to be on the main stage, and I was, I think on a Wednesday or a Thursday. And I came in town on a Sunday night. And Sunday night, I remember checking into my hotel, and I was under the covers in bed. It was lights out. It was light outside, and I was sobbing. And I texted my leader, and I said, I don't know if I can do this.
Yes.
I don't know if I can fulfill my obligations this week. And so I just came into Workhuman Live last year with an attitude of, we're not going to pretend this is not happening.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was the best combination of acknowledging that, but also bringing Black joy on stage.
That was the celebration where it was
Yes.
like, because like you said, like I wasn't going to come. And why? And this is what other people didn't realize. It's like, well, that was in Rochester. It was a couple days. No, people hate me because of the way I look.
Right.
And somebody could try to kill me.
Yes.
And we're going to go to Atlanta where they have, a high population of Black people. So somebody could just roll up.
Yes.
And and I was in such a, and Katie was so funny. Katie at one point was like, nope, Jackie's sitting right there. Jackie needs to hear this. Nope, everybody get out of Jackie's seat. There was no assigned seats, but there was one. Because it knew I needed these messages.
Yes.
And I don't think, that's something we talked about before, though, at Workhuman, about bringing those things that are relevant. Because we can have the degrees, we can have the paper, we can have the experience, but unless you've had those experiences, you don't know why there is that cross trauma. No, it didn't happen directly to me or a family member, but it's me.
It is me. Yeah. So back to, when I first joined Workhuman after the George Floyd murder, I was in one of those spaces, right? And I wanted to write an article on how to come up with a diversity strategy that was sustainable, because I felt like people were going to do this performative stuff and it was going to fall by the wayside. And I wanted to write this article. And Workhuman said, go for it. We will send it to media for you. This is great. And I wrote a first draft. And here was a new employee. And Workhuman said, yeah, the steps are great. It's great advice, but there's no you in it. And I was like, oh, so you want me to bring me and you're really serious, huh? That was scary.
Mm-hmm.
I write. I like to write. I got words, as you can probably tell. It took me weeks to rewrite that article because I was scared.
Mm-hmm.
I was scared to show up as my true self and to share my authentic feelings. But when I did, I came in screaming hot. I was like, oh, you want me, huh? You ready? Because this is coming right now. And they loved it. And I was like, oh, they mean it though. But you're right. We come to these spaces and we come with so much trauma that we don't immediately know that it's safe to be ourselves.
That's right. Because we're not free, We're not free.
Yeah.
And these are the things that we're trying to do. I love that you did that, and I'm proud of you. And I love you, and I'm proud of you for coming and showing up, because that was a really scary experience.
Don't make me
and
cry
then
on this
and do
podcast.
that.
Okay.
Jackie does all the time. Don't worry. It's fine. You can totally cry.
Yeah, I cry all the time. But I mean that, and it's just so important. And so I'm proud to know you and know that you're doing that work. It is so necessary. And thank you for making that sacrifice, because it's hard.
Great careers are forged out of great relationships. Your success, whatever your field, relies and thrives on the support and insights of others. I'm Andy Lapata, an author and speaker on the power of professional relationships. In the Connected Leadership podcast, I have the privilege of interviewing people from around the world to understand the relationships that have made a difference on their journey and how their insights can help you. From Nobel Prize winners to Olympians, from NASA astronauts to peace campaigners, my guests have shared some captivating moments from their lives and careers. Combined with experts from leading universities, cutting-edge authors and giants of business, the Connected Leadership podcast aims to inspire, educate and entertain.
It is hard. After the George Floyd murder, I decided to approach my work in a different way. So before that, I was very clinical. I didn't want to be part of the story. I was afraid, right? And now I come in real hot. I'm like, I've seen a few things. I've got some advice for how to make this better. And I'm dedicated to using my voice as part of the solution. But it is hard. And it is scary, especially when you see people who use their voice in this way in physical danger.
That's right.
So Dwayne Richards, who was on our panel last year, got death threats, you know? And so there's just so many layers of hard to this.
That's right. That's right. And it is tough, but we can do it together.
Yes.
And share. And the more we can share those authentic stories, then like those are the things we need to normalize is a real experience and listening and learning, knowing that there's learning in those opportunities and being vulnerable. It's hard. It's
very
scary.
hard. Yeah.
But I'm making space. We're making space. That's what I keep reminding myself. We're making space.
We will not quit, and we will not be silent, and we're surely not going away.
No, I remember I told my boss, I said, Black History Month. And she's like, oh, what are we doing? I was like, we're watching I Am Not Your Negro. She said, okay. I said, have you seen it? Have you heard of James Baldwin? She goes, I hired you. I trust you. Did you say we have to watch this? Okay, we're watching it.
I love it.
Yeah.
I said, okay.
Let's talk about your panel last year for just 1 second before we shut this down. You had, I don't even know. I mean, like you had Dr. Bernice King sitting beside you.
Yes.
Jackie and I were sitting next to
Brene
each other.
Myers.
Yes.
As
Oh my
well.
gosh.
Dwayne Richards.
Yes.
Heavy
Right.
Yes.
hitters. Yeah.
Yeah, like that panel was ridiculous in the best way possible. And again, this is what we need to be talking about
That's right.
now with HR folks that can actually go back to their companies and make changes that will impact all the data, all the things that you're working on,
Yes.
all the things that matter in the workplace to say, how do we look at this differently? And again, back to everyone's experience is not the same.
Yes.
Everyone in there that was a person of color last year was in a state of trauma.
Yes.
And I would hazard a guess that this year it's a very similar situation because it's not like anything has changed.
Right.
Yes.
We still, you ring a doorbell,
I know.
Yeah.
and so
Driving, make a U-turn in the wrong yard.
yeah.
Yeah.
So it is. I think it's the continued trauma that you're bringing to work, the continued trauma that you're dealing with. There's never a moment of like, I can breathe.
Yes.
I can just be myself. So the fact that you're in a space where you can share and trust that you are safe in sharing who
Yes.
you are, like that's amazing.
Yes. Thank you.
And for people to be able to do that in the workplace, like how has that completely shifted who you are as a human?
Oh my gosh, I can't even tell you. So I've been doing research on this for decades. And so intellectually, I know the impact of what happens when you can bring your authentic self to work, when you're doing meaningful work. But when you're living in it and walking in it, when I tell you I am fired up in a different way for everybody to live life like this.
Right.
People say, okay, so you're recording 8 podcasts at Workhuman Live. You are presenting twice. You're going to another conference right after this on the other coast and you're presenting 4 times. Aren't you tired? I say this is soul work.
That's right.
Okay?
Yes.
I can sleep when I'm dead.
That's right.
This is soul work. There is something different.
That's right. I've been talking about it. The doctor was like, oh, you have less stress. I said, I just bought a house. My kids moving. What are you talking about? I mean, and I'm like, wow. You don't realize putting these things, it's so important, the message, because you're changing the life and future generations of not passing on that trauma.
That's right. And I did a podcast a while back with a man called Dr. Dan Tamasulo, and he specializes in happiness. And one of the things he talks about is agency. So when all these things are happening around us that we can't control, like Buffalo, like the 16-year-old who's fighting for his life because he rang the wrong doorbell. One of the things that helps us cope is when we're doing things that make a difference. That's how I cope. So I am blessed and honored to be doing this work.
Well, thank you for making a difference.
Thank you. Thank you for letting me talk about this.
No, thank you very much for taking the time. And the authenticity that you bring, we appreciate. Just the ability to share and sharing. And, Jackie and I have known each other for years now. And even being able to be in her emotions at work and being able to, good and bad, share those things with her boss. And, you mentioned, being in your hotel room, not able to cope and having to just say, I need a minute.
Yes.
like those are things that are just so important, and the fact that you're in spaces that you can do that is huge.
Yes.
Okay, we have to shut it down.
It's hard, right?
Yeah.
Because I think we could sit here for about 6 more hours, but then we would miss the rest of the speakers,
That's
and
right.
then we'd get into trouble by Jenna also.
Big. Big.
So, the important thing is we need to keep on Jenna's good side. So we're going to have to shut it down. Thank you for coming on.
you.
And we will be reaching out to schedule the next episode that we will be recording with you because I want to dig in deeper on this research.
Thank you so much.
This is Katie Van Horn.
And this is Jackie Clayton.
Bye.
HR technology is a heck of a business. Investors are putting more money into it, employers are using artificial intelligence more and more, and analytics are applied to everything from performance to engagement to workforce planning. I'm Mark Pfeffer, the editor of the HCM Technology Report and the host of People Tech, the podcast that's all about technology and how HR puts it to use. Subscribe to People Tech wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts.